this is my cabled cowl or infinity scarf. I'm going to demonstrate all the rows that are required to complete this project, and plus we'll be going into how to join the work with the kitchen stitch as it's worked to and fro on standard needles. Now I've used 10mm needles for this and 2 plies of Aran yarn. Now do check the description box below for other projects. I've got a scarf also in this same stitch and gloves to match, so it's worth checking out the description box. So let's now get on with the video tutorial. For this project I'm using Hayfield Bonus Aran. It's a typical Aran yarn, so for results similar to mine, marry the ball band tension. Begin with a provisional cast on. So in this case I am just creating a series of chain stitches. I'm aiming for 36, but I'm going to just in fact create a few more additional chain stitches so that I have more than I actually need to pick up. So I'm quite happy with the amount of chain stitches, and I'm going to identify the end, which we later will unravel by securing with a little bow, like so. To successfully pick up stitches with this provisional cast on method, we've got a series of chain stitches which we want to flip over to the wrong side, if you like, where you will see a series of horizontal bars. And if I get my 10mm needle, I'm going to go into my first horizontal bar and join my yarn, which incidentally comprises of 2 strands of yarn. So I'm doubling up to get a chunky effect, and I'm pulling through to create my first picked up stitch. So let's go into our second horizontal bar and pick up our second stitch. Our third horizontal bar. That's a third stitch. Our fourth horizontal bar. That's our fourth stitch picked up. Our fifth. Our sixth. Seventh. Eighth. Ninth. And 10th. So we've now got 10 stitches. Keep going in the same manner until you have a total of 36 stitches. So I have my 36 stitches picked up, and we've now got to do 2 setting up rows, rows A and rows B, and then we can move on to the main pattern. So row A is a right side row, and we are just going to knit the first 12 This is being very tight. So that's 1. So we're going to knit 12 and then place a marker. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we need to position our first marker and continue to knit another 12. That being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and place your second marker. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we've got 12 stitches left, so that's correct. And we're just going to knit those final 12 stitches. And if you notice, I'm flitting between circular needles and straight needles. It doesn't matter, whichever is your preference is fine for use in this scarf, or infinity scarf I should say. So that's row A. That's our first right side row. Now for row B, we are going to purl 12. And that will take us up to our first marker, and that's why we're using these markers to basically prompt us into changing stitch. So when we get to the first marker, after purling 12, we know to change to a knit stitch. So without even thinking about it, I can go to that marker, move the marker over, take the yarn to the back and knit the middle 12. So I've got to the marker. I can now change and purl the last 12 stitches, and that would be row B. Those are our 2 setup rows. And now we've completed those 2 setup rows, we can go on to the main pattern repeat. With the foundation rows now complete, we can move on to the main pattern. And if you repeat the next 8 rows over and over again, you form the fabric of the knitting. So you can see I've already gone ahead and worked a few repeats of the main repeat. but this is what you would need to do next. This would count as row 1. So for row 1 of the main pattern repeat, begin by knitting 4. That's 2, 3, 4, and next we're going to do an 8 stitch left cross. Now I'm using a double pointed needle to act as a cable needle, so get your cable needle, so in my case this double pointed needle which achieves the same thing, and slip 4 stitches onto the cable needle like so. Hold the 4 stitches to the front of the work and then knit 4 from the left needle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Very carefully slip the 4 stitches held on the cable needle onto the left needle. And then knit those. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the marker over and knit 12. Move your marker over. Next we're going to do an 8 stitch right cross, and first we're going to slip 4 stitches onto our cable needle, and then we're going to hold those 4 stitches at the back of the work. Then we're going to knit 4. Now carefully slip the 4 stitches from the cable needle onto the left needle. And now knit those 4 stitches. And knit the last 4. So that's row 1 of the main pattern repeat, a right side row. So row 2, a wrong side row. We're going to begin by purling 12. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So that's purl 12, move the marker over, and that prompts you to change to work the next 12 stitches knitwise. So it's a little prompt on the wrong side to encourage you to keep the pattern correct, if you like. So when we get to the next marker, without even thinking about it, we can purl 12. So I've reached my marker. I now know I need to purl those last 12 stitches. So that would be row 2, and row 2 is repeated a lot in this repeat. Rows 4, rows 6 and rows 8 will be the same as row 2. So that's row 2 completed. So row 3 is a nice easy knit row, so we're going to knit all the stitches on this row. It's a nice break. So we're just going to knit all the way across. So that's row 3. Row 4, it's the same as row 2, and we begin by purling 12, so we're purling up to that first marker. Move the marker over. We now know that we have to knit till the next marker, so knitting 12. Slip the marker over. We're now going to purl the last 12 stitches there. So So that's row 4. Row 5 is the cabling row. We're going to begin with an 8 stitch right cross. So slip the next 4 stitches onto your cable needle, or in my case I'm using a double pointed needle to do the same job. Hold the cable needle to the back of the work and knit the next 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now very carefully transfer the stitches from the cable needle onto the left needle. And then knit those 4 stitches from the cable needle. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit another 4, taking you up to the marker. Slip the marker over and continue to knit to the next marker, so knitting 12. Move the marker over and knit the next 4. And with the last 8 stitches we're going to do an 8 stitch left cross. So with your cable needle, take the next 4 stitches and hold at the front. Knit the next 4 stitches, carefully transfer the stitches from the cable needle onto the left needle. And knit those. So that's row 5. Row 6. It's the same as row 2, so we are purling the first 12 stitches. So that takes us to that first marker. Slip the marker over, and that marker reminds us that on a wrong side row we need to change to a knit stitch for the next 12. When you get to the next marker, we want to purl the remaining stitches. So purl the last 12 stitches, and that would be row 6. Row 7. Now row 7 is the same as row 3. It's a nice easy knit row. So knit all the way to the end there for row 7. So that's row 7. Now row 8 is the last row for the main repeat. So it's the same as row 2, so we're purling 12. Move the marker over, and now knit the next 12 stitches. After knitting 12, move that marker over and purl the last 12 stitches. Now those 8 rows form the main pattern repeat. So what you have to do is keep repeating rows 1 to 8 until your project is the right size for you. So that's row 8. Carefully unravel this provisional cast on, and it's going to probably be it's probably going to stick here and there, so we're going to just take our time and do this very carefully. Now ideally, it's not, just take that out. Ideally you want to aim to go into the right leg of the stitch. So I'm gently unravelling, and as I unravel I'm trying to enter into the right leg of the stitch. Now I'm going to show you how to join the cowl using the kitchen stitch, but please note this is a mock-up, so I've mocked up the same scenario and I've got two small pieces of work that represent what is going to happen when you work this cowl. So this represents the end of the scarf, so that's your working yarn still attached. You need to cut off a long length and thread it through an embroidery needle, because that's what we're going to do in order to fuse the two pieces of work together. However, in this demonstration I am going to be using a nice contrast yarn so that you can see clearly what's happening as we fuse these two pieces together. So this is the end of the work where you've worked to row 6, ready to start a right side row. This represents the provisional cast on. We've slipped all our stitches onto an 8mm needle and we've got it looking like this, with the tips facing to the right for ease of working the kitchen stitch. So you want to, you've obviously got to check you've got 36 stitches and they're all aligned nicely and evenly before you begin. So front needle, back needle. Now we're going to enter with our embroidery needle. We're going to enter into the front needle as if to knit, pull through, and we're going to knit one off, and then we're going to purl on, which means to enter into the second stitch as if to purl but leave the stitch on, like so. We now go to the back needle, where this time we're going to purl one off, so entering as if to purl, purl one off, and knit on, so enter the stitch as if to knit, and don't take that second stitch off, leave it on the needle. And we're going to repeat that little sequence along the first knit section. And I'm going to show you every stitch because it is quite tricky. So pull that along. So back to the front needle, knit one off, so go into it as if to knit and slip it off, purl on, so enter into the next stitch purlwise, leave on the needle. Now the back needle, we're going to purl one off, so enter the stitch as if to purl, take it off the needle. The second stitch we knit on, so enter as if to knit with the needle. to leave that on and keep repeating. So front needle, we're going to knit one off, and we're going to purl on. Back needle, purl one off and knit on. So knit one off, purl on. And what you're trying to do is imitate the overall tension of the work as you form your join. So back needle, purl one off, knit on. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. Back needle, purl one off, knit on. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. Back needle, purl one off, knit on. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. Back needle, purl one off, knit on. And you can see it's starting to join quite nicely there. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. Back needle, purl one off and knit on. And keep checking your work and look to see if the stitch fits in with what you've already got. You want to mimic the stitch itself. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. Back needle, purl one off, knit on. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. Back needle, purl one off, knit on. Front needle, knit one off, purl on. And note we're on our last stitch, and soon we are going to just change the Kitchener stitch slightly to suit the garter stitch centre in a moment. Back needle, purl one off, knit on. Right, now we're at the point where we're going to change things slightly. So this is the garter stitch section that we're making this change for. So it's the back needle where the change is going to occur. So the front needle is knit one off, purl on, which is exactly the same. However, the back needle now, instead of purling one off, we're going to knit one off and purl on. So the back needle changes slightly here. So I want you to knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on. So it's in fact easier doing this garter stitch bit because the instructions are exactly the same, aren't they? So front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on. Front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, and we're going to keep going until we hit is it the last garter stitch? Yeah, when we hit the last garter stitch we'll change things again. So front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, knit one off, purl on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, and that's our last garter stitch. So back needle, knit one off, purl on. So we are working through our last garter stitch, and now I'm going to change the stitch pattern back to normal Kitchener stitch. So front needle doesn't change, it's knit one off, purl on, and the back needle this time is purl one off and knit on. So front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on. So keep going. Front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, knit one off and purl on, back needle, purl one off and knit on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, and back needle, purl one off and knit on. Right, make sure that you leave enough length. Look, I am going to have to fudge this, but if this happens to you, it's possible to fix. Right, front needle, knit one off, purl on. I'm going to tidy those up at the end. I might just do one single knot just to hold things in place. Back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on front needle, knit one off, purl on, back needle, purl one off, knit on, front needle, we can only knit one off here, and back needle, we can purl one off like so. And we can just relook at the work apart from this here, which don't let that happen to you. So this can be saved here. We can thread that through. Get that through to the back. And then what I would be inclined to do, we want to just weave this in and out the best we can. So if that was to happen to you, which I don't recommend, it can be fixed. Darn in the other side in the same way. And then if we take a look at the sides, we want to make sure they're nice and clean. So let's see what can be done here. If we take a look, so I might be tempted to go in there. And again, weave in and out. So I think that contrast yarn demonstrates how well that pattern will merge. We've kept the stitch pattern integrity, we've kept the knit stitches, we've kept the garter stitch and the knit stitch here. So when you're doing this in the real yarn that you've kept aside, you'll have a really smashing join, won't you? It'll look really tidy. So right, so that's it. I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you do make this cowl, please send your pictures to my Facebook page. I would love to see them. Thanks for watching.